When you came in, you got a book like this, Welcome to Create Church, and inside there's some places for you to, if you're new here, or if you have new information, to fill that in. And at the bottom of that, there's a prayer card. And we just want to join you in prayer. There's a place there where you can separate that from your name. And at the end of the service, we'll have some buckets go around. You can just drop that in there. So today, we are really talking about reflecting on the idea of joy, we sing songs about joy, and we wear, the red and the green and things like that, and there's always something about, we're talking about joy. But kind of the funny thing is, maybe that's not funny, but this month is one of the hardest months for a lot of people. I mean, there's more crime, statistically, there's more suicides in this month than any other month combined, I'm told. And I personally, I don't think it's because things are worse off. Like, I don't think people are worse off during this time. I just think maybe we're thinking about those things more. We're feeling that more here in December, when everything else is supposed to be joyful. We're supposed to be getting together with family and things like that. And so sometimes I think we put on, like, we want to put that joyful face. We want to be part of the season and act, like everything's okay. And I think the church is probably one of the worst culprits of this, where we do this a lot. I mean, we sing all these happy songs and all these things, where for most people that, church and joy are you don't put those two together, or God and joy. Like, you don't, those aren't things you'd put together, those two words. But that's a problem for me. I mean, I think that's not a good thing. Psalm 2 says that God is sitting on his throne and he laughs. I mean, he's a God who laughs. You just need to know that he's a God that sees humor in things. In Nehemiah chapter 8, the joy of the Lord is our strength. The joy of the Lord is our strength. If that's true, I mean, we've got a lot of weak people out here, don't we? There's a lot of times just not a lot of joy seen. I think God is a joyful person. I think, and this matters to us. I think as a church, we've always wanted our services, our meetings to be enjoyable. We want people to be able to enjoy coming together, being, worshiping God together. So that's kind of a big deal. But so often, Jesus is seen, in Hollywood as this, kind of malnourished, kind of, sad-looking, holding the ball, baseball thing, doing that, and walking around all angry. And he's not that way at all. I mean, when he was in a group of people, kids would come and jump on his lap. And do you know what it takes to be a kid magnet, right? I mean, you've got to have candy in your robe. You've got to be like, it's just a little bit crazy. Jesus was so full of joy. He attracted people. People loved that about him. The big deal about this for me is that, when we talk about joy, it's such a central theme to the season, to where we're at right now. It's a huge part of the Christmas theme. I mean, it's joy. And it all starts, long before you had the wise men and Jesus in the manger and all these things that we think about at Christmas. We had God coming to some shepherds in the middle of the night. And shepherds were kind of like the lowest of the low. I mean, it was already a pretty low menial job. But these weren't just any shepherds. No, this was the night shift. Everyone else is tucked into bed. Everyone else is nice and warm at home. And these shepherds are out in the fields. It's cold. It might be rainy. They're kind of miserable already. And then an angel comes down. And this angel says this out of Luke 2. There were shepherds in the same country living out in the fields, keeping watch over their flocks by night. And behold, an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone about them. And they're greatly afraid. So they're already, like, everything's bad, and now they're just really in a bad place. They're frightened. They're afraid of what's coming next. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great," say it with me, joy. take a look at that language. Joy, I'm bringing you joy. And that's what's incredible about that, is that God could have said anything, like, hey, I'm bringing you righteousness. He doesn't say that. I'm bringing you, the church. I'm going to start a church. He doesn't say that. You need to clean up your life. God was bringing joy. That's the thing that he wanted to communicate to these night shift, down and out shepherds. I'm bringing you joy. And I think a lot of people confuse the idea of joy with its counterfeit. Like it's not really joy, but it's happiness. And a lot of Americans are chasing that idea of happiness. They're looking for happiness. And even that word happiness in the Latin, I'm told, hap, comes from, a chance, circumstance, luck, happenstance. We have that, or hap. You've heard that word. I mean, you're ruled, your internal, the way you're feeling is totally ruled by your circumstances if you're looking for happiness. So, for example, if it's raining outside, then I'm sad. But if it's not raining, then I'm happy. If the stock market's doing great, I'm happy. If it's going down, I'm sad. If my kids are acting great, I'm happy. If they're not, I'm sad or mad. I mean, our lives are just ruled by circumstances. And that's not at all what God brought. What God brought was something totally different. He brought joy, where in the middle of all the junk that's going on, the dark place where you're in, you might feel like you're on the side of this hill, and it's cold and it's rainy and you're all alone. In the middle of that, God brings joy. Not an external thing that makes you happy, but even, let me say it this way, all hell can be breaking loose in your life, but you can still have joy in your heart, and you're okay. You're going to make it. That's the difference. That's the real miracle that God brought that night, that joy. And I think this is important because all of us, me included, have some dark places in our life, are going through some dark things, or there's the possibility, there's a potential of having some dark stuff in our life. And in 2 Timothy, we actually learn that in the end times, the stuff kind of ramps up. We're kind of told that this is a warning sign. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 1. But mark this, there will be terrible times in the last days. I don't know what your theology is like, but when I read the Bible, it looks like we are in the last days of the church, today. Like this is for us. This is our time here. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents. And then look at all these uns. Ungrateful, unholy, without love or unloving, unforgiving. And I just want to look at these. I want to look closely at these uns. The first one is that ungrateful. I just think that's a picture of America today. Our nation today seems to always want more and more and more. A better Christmas than last year, a nicer Lexus than we got for last Christmas, right? Just more stuff. Climbing up the ladder, better career, more things, just more and more. And we're just obsessed with that. There's an ungratefulness there. And I think there's people that actually do studies of people that have stuff, and they find that anxiety levels are so much higher if you've got all this newest, best stuff. I mean, because you're trying to keep it nice, right? I guess. You get a new thing and you want to keep it nice. Makes sense. So the answer is never just getting more stuff. That does not make us, it really doesn't make us happy. It doesn't give us joy. That second one, unloving, I don't know about you, but it seems like everywhere I look, on the news, social media, there's one group of people that's angry about the other group of people. There's one side that is mad and hates what the other side is thinking. And, you go and read comments, read posts and blogs, And it's all over the place. It seems like people are angry, are unloving, are mad about other people. It just seems like that's what's going on. Just check your heart, because I know this is some of us this time of year, right? We get around family, get around the in-laws, and it can just be not pretty sometimes. But then in 1 Timothy, he really ramps it up here with unforgiving. And I think this really does show up at Christmas time. We've got these relationships where someone has hurt us in the past. And oftentimes family, right? And so we decide, we have people that we're not talking to we'll have 2 or 3 Christmases we go to, and there's people we're not talking to that year, and you probably won't talk to them next year. And there's just a ton of, it's stupid. It's stupid. I heard someone say, unforgiveness is kind of like when you set yourself on fire, hoping that the person you hate will die from smoke inhalation, right? I mean, it's funny, but it's actually pretty sad. I mean, this is the state of some of our relationships, this unforgiveness. And I mean, I don't know what's going on inside of you. This is a warning from Paul. I mean, I see what you're singing, I see what you're wearing. Seems like there's a lot of joy, but what's going on inside in your heart? What's going on in there? This last one is unholy, the last un in this list. And I just think that maybe the rest of the other uns are almost like they kind of start from this. Usually when we think of holy, we sometimes put the word righteous in there. But really, being holy just means that you're set apart, like you're made special for a purpose, right? And God sees that as He wants us to stay clean, wants us to stay, keep ourselves for His special purpose. So there is some of that, but it's really just having a purpose, knowing that our purpose is in God. And I think the reason we see a lot of people without joy is because they don't know what their purpose is in life. They're living sort of a purposeless life. They don't know why they're on earth. They don't know why God has them here. I think this happens in a lot of Christians too. Just losing joy because they don't know that purpose, don't know why God has them here. And that's why I think we chase so many other things, why we're always looking for something else to kind of make us happy, to fill in that void of not having that purpose. And when God speaks to these shepherds that are on this hill in their dark and cold, lonely place, He gives them a message, and He also gives them a challenge. He gives them a reason. I'm going to pick up here Luke chapter 2, verse 11. This is the message. For there is born to you this day in the city of David a Savior who is Christ the Lord. Do you know what Christ means? It doesn't mean Jesus. It's not like His name. But Christ was like a title, like President Trump, President Obama. It's a title. Christ really means He's the one who's anointed. He's chosen. He's the one who's anointed to bring deliverance to the dark place in your life. Let me say it another way. Jesus Christ is the only one who can deal with and solve the dark places in your life. That's His job. He's anointed to do that. And He says, the rest of the message, this will be the sign to you. Like this is how you'll know that you find this Christ. You'll find a babe wrapped in swaddling clothes lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly hosts praising God. And this is what they were saying. They were saying, glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill towards men. This on earth peace, it's actually kind of interesting. There's actually no place in the Bible that says peace on earth, except when Jesus says, I do not bring peace on earth. That's not my job, is to bring peace on earth. But we have a lot of cards that say that. But it's really on earth, peace. Meaning in the middle of your circumstances, in the middle of the dark place, in the middle of the chaos and the junk and everything that's going on in your life, in the middle of that, God came to bring you peace. Let me say it this way. God didn't come to fix your circumstances. He came to fix something on the inside. He came to bring you peace, to bring you joy. That's the message, that's the challenge of Christmas. And here's why this is why it's so important to me. I grew up in the church. I was even baptized, when I was, 10 or something like that. Baptized in the church. So I knew a lot about the church people, how church should work, what to do, what to say. But I really didn't know a lot about God or relationship with God. I knew the church stuff. I was good with that. But just didn't really know God. And when I was in high school, my oldest brother and older sister, they were both off to college. It was just me in high school, and my little brother was in junior high at the time. So I was like the only one in high school, driving back and forth in high school. And I already felt a little bit lonely. Like all the people that are supposed to take care of me, older siblings, they were gone out of the picture. So I already felt a little bit alone, a little bit sad about that. But then the only sport that I was actually good at in junior high was running, was sprinting, was track. I was kind of good at that. I beat Nifro Cicito once. He was the fastest guy. I beat him once in the 100. But by high school, for some reason, don't know if I was growing, but my knees would sometimes go out. And it'd just be really painful. For weeks. So I finally had to drop out of the only sport that I liked or was good at. I was too small for football, right? And too short for basketball. So that left me with track. And so I kind of I gave up my sport. And then about that same time, I had a couple of my best friends, they were both Christians, kind of made the decision that they were done with that. They were done with church, done with God. They just weren't interested anymore. So I remember driving home once, all alone, again, feeling sorry for myself. Took about 15 minutes to get from high school back to our house in the country. And just thinking through my decisions. It felt like I had a path that I could decide right then and there. And one path was to stay close to my friends. I lost everything else, didn't want to lose them. And then the other path was those things that I had learned in church, the things about God that I learned. Did I really want to believe those? Did I really see God as someone who would stick with me closer than my friends? Did I believe that? And I was just thinking this through. And finally, after that 15-minute drive, I finally decided, you know what? And I was talking to God at that point. You know what, God? I've believed in you all these years, but now I feel like I'm at a place where even if you don't change any of the circumstances in my life, even if nothing good happens, I'm going to follow you. I'm going to go all in. Even if I have to cut all my ties or whatever, if I never have another friend in my life, I'm going to follow you. It wasn't just Jesus, I believe in you. It wasn't just that, because I think a lot of Christians believe in God, right? But it was all in, God, I'm going to follow you for the rest of my life, no matter what happens on the outside. And what was amazing about when I made that decision, when I told God that, and I told him all the emptiness that I felt and got that off my chest. But after I made my decision to follow God, I had so much peace. I didn't have, those guys were never really, even to this day, aren't really close friends at all. But none of the circumstances in my life really changed, but God gave me a peace and a joy that was just indescribable. And that's been, since that time, it's really just been my passion in life to let other people know about a God who loves them, and a God like that who they can turn to no matter what's going on, whatever the circumstances are. And you know Your circumstances may not get better, probably won't, but God can bring something into your life that is beyond all those. It's something on the internal, and it's something that I experienced. Close your eyes for just a minute. I just want to pray for you this morning. Pray for this joy. I know a lot of us go through this season and we're putting on all the clothes, we're putting on the bright colors, we're singing the songs, we're telling the stories. On the outside, there's just a lot of, we try to look like we match the season, try to look like we've got joy in our hearts. But if you're like me at times and there's this dark place inside of you, I just want to encourage you. That dark place will end, but you don't need to wait for it to end to have joy. Even in the middle of whatever you're going through, whatever that stress is at work, in your marriage, in your singleness, with your family, at school, whatever that is, if you can give your life to God, if you can tell Him, God, I'm not going to live a split life where I'm looking for happiness in my friends or my family or my money, but God, I want to find my purpose in You alone.